What's up everybody, welcome back to my channel. We are back in Destiny 2, and in this video I wanted to do a complete guide to the Ghosts of the Deep dungeon. In this video, I will go over the mechanics and boss fights found in this dungeon, and I will also show you where to find the 2 secret chests. I plan on making a video like this one for every dungeon and raid in Destiny 2. So if this video helps you, please consider subscribing to this channel, as I'm sure my future videos will help you as well. I'm gonna try to make this video as short as possible, so let's get right into it. So first off, the Ghosts of the Deep dungeon can be found in the Helm destination, but you will only be able to access this dungeon if you own the Lightfall Dungeon Key DLC. The recommended level for this dungeon will be 1790, so I would also suggest reaching this level before you attempt this dungeon. And then to enter this dungeon, you will need to talk to Hawthorne back at the tower and pick up the quest she has, called Rise. The first encounter of the Ghosts of the Deep dungeon will be the HIVE ritual. This encounter is actually very simple. All you will need to do is run to the door at the back of the area and kill the 2 HIVE enemies that will be at the door. Then you can turn around and kill the new ogre enemy that will spawn in. Once the ogre is dead, you will want to look at the ground for green goo. Then follow this goo to a green HIVE symbol that will be floating in the sky, and kill all of the enemies that will be under the HIVE rune until green goo appears again, and follow it to the next rune. Do this until you reach a rune that will have a Lightbearer HIVE enemy at it. Also, you need to remember what the rune looks like that will be floating in the air, as that will become important later. But then you will kill the HIVE Lightbearer and use your finisher on its ghost. Doing this will give the player who executed the ghost a buff called Vestige of Light. Take this buff back to the door where you killed the ogre at, and when you get here you will notice a new wizard has spawned. Kill this wizard, and once it is dead you will notice a new deep sight buff laying on the ground. One of the players who doesn't have the Vestige of Light buff should use this buff to display the runes that will be on the statues in this area. Then the player with the Vestige of Light buff can deposit their buff into the statue that has the same symbol on it, and that will be the symbol that you are following around the map. Repeat this process 3 more times to unlock the door and finish this encounter. Then you can head inside of the dungeon and make your way underwater, and once you come out of the water and reach land for the first time, you can jump up to this area to get your first secret chest. The next encounter of this dungeon will be ECTHAR, the Shield of SAVATHUN. This will be the first boss fight of this dungeon. Now this encounter will involve using the same buffs as the first encounter, and also some swimming underwater. Now the basic explanation of this encounter will be to kill the praying enemies at the start of the fight to start the fight, then look for the blistered knights that will be walking around and kill all of them to spawn in an ogre at the back of the room. Then kill the ogre to spawn in a deep sight buff back where those enemies were praying at the front of the room. While you have that deep sight buff, you will need to look at the left and right walls for 3 hive symbols. Then you can jump into one of the holes in the ground to go underwater. Underwater, you will need to look around the area for those 3 hive runes and activate all of them. But while you're underwater, you will also want to avoid the boss that will be chasing you. When all 3 hive runes have been activated, you will need to return to the surface and kill the light bearer wizards and execute their ghosts to get the vestige of light buff, then activate the 3 hive statues that can be found on the left, right, and back middle of the arena. With the vestige of light buff, you will only be able to activate 1 statue, so you will need to kill 3 wizards in total. After you have activated all 3 statues, a well keeper will spawn in at the front of the room. You will need to kill it and stand in the circle that is dropped where it dies, and while you're standing in that circle, you will need to shoot at the boss to remove the boss's shield. Once the shield has been broken, you will be able to damage the boss. Then you can just repeat these steps until the boss is dead, but just be warned that when the boss dies, you will need to execute the boss's ghost before the ghost can revive it. Now many teams will only have 1 person go underwater while the other 2 players stay above ground to kill enemies. But we found it a lot easier and safer to have all 3 players go underwater to activate the runes. We also used the underwater area as a safe spot that we could go to if things were getting too crazy. And if 2 of the 3 players were dead, the 3rd living player could survive underwater until the 2 other players could revive themselves. Now for the boss fight, the boss will be very close range, so it's not recommended to use any explosive weapons. My team used a well and melee supers and thunderlords with a tractor cannon to beat this boss. And putting arc resistance mods on your armor will also help you a lot here. Then you can proceed further into the dungeon until you reach this part where you will come across an ogre. Kill this ogre and then jump on top of the building that he spawns under to get to the 2nd secret chest. The final boss of this dungeon will be SIMMUMAH UR-NOKRU. This encounter will be the trickiest encounter in this dungeon due to the mechanics that this encounter will use, but once you have practiced it a few times you should be fine. To start this boss fight, you will need to execute the ghost in the middle of the room. As soon as you do this, try to kill the knights that will be around the outside of the area, as they will do a lot of damage to you. Somewhere in the arena will be the deep sight buff. You will need to grab that buff, then look up to see which 3 body parts will be linked together by a green line. Then go to one of those body parts and lure the named knight close to it. Once that knight is close, you will need to kill it. This will spawn a new symbol above that body part, and it will spawn a green circle nearby. You will need to stand behind the green circle and aim your gun through it until it lines up with the symbol above that body part. Do this for all 3 of the body parts, then you can move on to the next phase. For the next phase, you will need to look at all 3 of those body parts and memorize the new symbols above them. From here, you will need to go into the 3 rooms around the outside of the arena. To get into these rooms, you will need to use the water doors that can be found near the left and right hands, and the head of the body in the middle of the room. In the rooms behind the water doors, you will find another hive rune floating in the air, and under it there will be a light bearer hive enemy. You will need to look at the rune and memorize it, then kill the light bearer and its ghost to get a buff. Then you can take that buff back to the main room and get another deep sight buff and run to the body part that will have the symbol above it that was inside of the room that you went into. Then you can go up to that body part and deposit your buff into that body part. Once all 3 of the body parts have had a buff deposited into them, the damage phase will start. Again, for this boss fight, this boss will have a shield that you will need to break before you can do damage to the boss. So don't use your heavy hitting weapons and supers right away, instead weaken the boss's shield with a special weapon, then when the shield breaks you can go crazy. And this boss will also be further away than the first boss, so you can use rocket launchers in this fight. But having a warlock with a well super on your team will be very helpful here. Then you can just repeat the process of linking the body parts together and depositing the buffs into those body parts until the boss is dead. And that's going to be pretty much it. But before this video ends, I just wanted to let you know that I plan on creating a ton of videos for Destiny 2 on this channel. So if this video has helped you, please consider subscribing to this channel, as I'm sure my future videos will help you as well. And if you are also looking for a new clan in Destiny 2, you can check out the link in the pinned comment below to join the Destiny 2 clan that I have created. You can also find me streaming Destiny 2 over on Twitch. You can find my Twitch link in the pinned comment as well. But anyways, I hope this video has helped you and thank you for watching.